Grassi is the president, kneeling on your left. Billy Yambrook is in the middle. And then moving up to the top left, you'll see me the way I used to look. A great Swedish champion, Nors Nordland, is next to me. And the wonderful CBS sports commentator, Jack Whitaker, is part of this great group. Eddie Monclair is next to him. I mentioned him earlier. The great Vic Hershkowitz, and another club president. All having a good time. Apparently only the guy in the middle on the right side kneeling has a drink in his hand. I think we all would have had a drink there. Another classic picture. This is a beauty. This is one of my all-time favorites. It shows the great Al Orta. He won 4 successive Olympic Games in the shot put. What a great champion he is. Even though injured with neck injuries and the like, pinched nerve in the cervical area of his spine, he put on a horse collar, as it was called, and he went on again to win his 3rd and 4th Olympiad. That's his dad next to him, on his right. On his dad's right is Oscar, and again, I'm there. Now panning over to the other side, look at my dad. He has his hand on Al Orta's shoulder, and he just barely reaches it. But you see that little memo book my dad is holding? That's from the old sports dinner at the New York Athletic Club, where all the national champions, Olympic champions, Pan American champions are all honored. And Carl is next to my dad. He's got the wing foot on his jacket the way we all did, even though it's partially hidden in the part of the picture. That was indeed a great moment in sports, the great Al Orta. What we're going to do now is we're going to move to another location. We're going to go down to the Hall of Fame room. You're going to see great champions in the wonderful almost 125-year history of the New York AC. And we'll talk a little bit more with Oscar, a little bit more with Carl, and we'll get their comments about this great sport. After all, this is the wonderful world of handball. This is what it's all about. And we're going to try and promote it as best we can, using great champions like Oscar, Carl, to put on clinics, to have them make speeches, to have them do tapes with the wonderful work of Matthew Parrish. That's what we're trying to accomplish. We have some wonderful surprises for you. We're going to talk about it later, about various projects in the works. So now we'll go down to the Hall of Fame room.
Oh, look at this guy. He's pretty sneaky.
Josh, you have to come over here.
With my glasses on or off?
You'll sit up right in here. Carl, maybe you can sit on this. No, go on this. Sit on that where you were. In front of that one. Now stand over here. Sit on that. Keep making all that noise. Matthew, I think you'll ask some of the questions now, all right?
Okay. I'm going to shift this and get closer like this so the sound will be good. And you guys have been very, very helpful the way you sing it. It's a very nice composition.
Will the,
Yeah, it'd be better if we didn't have that. Yeah.
Want to stop?
If you would, Eric. Because we got to get young Noah back home to bed.
No problem.
Thanks so much.
Okay, guys, this is a good. Okay, I'm gonna. Okay. Okay, folks, we have the 3 Oberts here. We have Oscar and Carl and Ruby. Can I ask you guys, when you're, I heard you say earlier, Oscar, that you attack the ball as opposed to the player, but you were also saying later that you adapt to the player.
That's right.
Could you
Well,
explain this contradiction?
when you go in, the object is to hit the ball, to follow the ball and play the ball. Now, when you're playing an opponent, you have to observe what his moves are as when you serve the ball, what direction he goes, and you have to adapt yourself to making adjustments. Now, if you keep it with the same basic serve, we'll say, and it works for a while, then all of a sudden, it's not working anymore. Now you have to alter it to do something else with the ball. Now the ball is still in play, and you follow the ball as when your opponent hits it. and you have to adapt yourself accordingly of where to place the ball and what to do with it.
Have you developed a knowledge of the character of people whom you've hardly spoken to as a result of how they adapt to your playing game?
There's a lot of people that don't adapt. Now, to put it bluntly, I can give you a book on handball, and I say these are the basic rules that you need. But it doesn't hold true. What you have to do is you have to go on the court, play opponents, and see what your abilities are.
Who was the most interestingly complex character with a lot of surprises whom you've played as a result of playing handball? The person who surprised you the most with how he adapted and the strange things that he did out there?
Well, I can mention one man. His name was Max Laskow. And what he did, as I was playing one wall, he was playing four wall. And one day I walked over to a four wall court, and he said, "You want to come down and play?" And I said, "I'm not too good at four wall, but I can play one wall." He says, "Come on down." Now, in theory, you know what a four wall court is, because you've seen it. You go down, and it's like a difference from night to day. Now, all he did was when he served, he just lobbed the ball, and me rushing in to get the ball off the left wall, I missed it. So basically what you do is you let the ball bounce, and you let it go to the back wall, and you return it. And as I was doing that, he was up in front court, and he picked up the ball, and I was running in, and he whipped the ball around the walls again. So it made me look like a jackass running back and forth.
He knew the four wall style.
Of course.
He was playing four wall, I was playing one wall. Now, it took a week. Afterward, I went back to the same place, saw the same man, and played him again. And I said to myself, why am I playing him four wall when I'm a one wall player? So I adapted my game to play one wall against him, and the outcome was in reverse. As where he beat me 25-1, I beat him 25-1. And that was like understanding how do you have to adapt to playing the man, taking the ball and doing something that you normally don't do. Because in a four-wall game, you use the walls. In a one-wall game, you just use the straight wall without touching any of the walls.
How did you attack a player like Steve Sandler?
Well, as I said before, there's no such thing as attacking. It's like saying, you play your type of game and see what happens. Now you do have to make adjustments because in one wall, you don't have to move. You can block the man out, but you have to do it in the right way because if you don't, they'll call it in the ball. Now, if you saw a man take a ball on the fly between his legs and hit the ball to the front wall, he'd say it wasn't possible. Now, the same thing when when he hits the ball and it's coming right at you and you hit it behind your back, you're not supposed to be doing that either. But it's instinct, and you got to bring your body to where you're playing the ball. Now, there's times where the man hit the ball right at you, and naturally, if you don't move, it's going to hit you. But in times when you learn the speed of the ball and what to do, you can always get the ball back to the front wall.
So your experience is the ball and your body and the wall.
That's right.
Those three things.
The man you play, if you have any animosity against him, knowing that he's a dirty player, you don't put that into play because that throws your game off and you do crazy things with a ball that you're not supposed to do. Like saying, he did that to me, he got in my way, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the ball, I'm going to hit him with it. Now a ball travels about 100 miles an hour. And if you ever get hit with a ball traveling 100 miles an hour, you're going to feel it. And you're going to get plenty of lumps. So you try to avoid that. You just say to yourself, all right, that's the way he plays. Now you have to adjust yourself to make sure that you know what he's going to do and you try and avoid it and play a different type of game.
Right. It sounds as if the thing that appeals to you about the game is the classic simplicity of it. Those
Exactly. In one wall, there's only one wall, and you have to adapt your body to go to the right and go to the left. In full wall, as I said before, there's 6 walls carrying the floor. If you count them, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 walls. The ceiling is 5, and the floor is 6. Now, to understand what it is to throw a ball against the front wall and have it go to all the other walls, it's not like you don't run after the ball, because by doing that, by the time you catch up to the ball, you'll never reach it. Now you have to fix your body in a certain way and watch the ball as it's struck from the front wall to go around. And you just follow it around with your eye. And actually you got to move your body too, because you want to get up to it ahead of time. And by doing that, you can get your whole body acclimated to where the ball is going, which you are playing the ball. And this way here, you can make your shot, front wall, wrap it around the walls, get it back on the ceiling. This is all in timing and knowing what you have to do with a ball. When you play great players, you only get 1 shot. You don't get more than 1 shot. And if you don't make it, forget about it. In one wall, it applies the same way. There's only 1 wall. You make the wrong move, because once you hit the ball to the front wall, there's no side walls. And once you hit it to the front wall, you got to make sure that ball is laying flat. If not, your opponent's going to capitalize and kill right on top of it.
Okay, is there a certain kind of pleasure in comparable activities like mathematics or abstract art, or things that are like the kind of experience that you're describing?
Well, a handball player is like a ballet dancer. He's got to be on his toes all the time. If you stand flat-footed and you're not moving, you're like a lump, just standing there. Now you got to be on the balls of your feet, because every time the ball's in play, you got to move like a ballet dancer moves to make different steps. And the same thing applies when you're playing the one-wall game. In four-wall, to an extent, you got to be like a little ballet dancer. But the idea is you got to follow the ball as it goes around the walls. If you stand in one spot, you're dead. So the minute the ball hits the front wall, automatically your body and your eyes are going to tell you which way you got to go. Now, as I said before, if you just stand in one spot, by the time you get moving, the ball already took 2 steps ahead of you. So you got to make sure that when the ball hits the front wall, or if there's a ceiling shot, you have to know how to move your body and how to adapt yourself to the back wall. Now, once the ball is hit off the back wall, you go for the kill. If the kill isn't flat, your opponent is right in the front court. Because your whole idea is to get the man in the back court and you yourself in the front court. Now, there's different angles you can play on a four-wall court. Now, if you want to keep your opponent in back court, you can hit the front wall, right wall, in the left-hand crotch, and the ball will come out to the right wall and straighten out. It's a difficult shot to make, but it can be done. Now, it's actually like playing pool. When you play, or I should say, billiards, you got to get your ball in a certain area. Now, if you don't, that means you didn't make a good shot. Now, in pool, straight pool, there's 8 balls. You got to make sure you avoid the 8 ball. Now, every time you hit one ball, you got to get in position for the second ball. You're playing 8 ball. You sunk the first, you got to go after the second. Now, after you sink the second one, you got to get into position to find out where the other balls are. Now, this applies in one ball also, especially when you're playing doubles. Now, when I'm playing with my brother Rube, the whole idea is we have to know beforehand what's going to happen. You don't talk, you just observe each other's movement. And by doing this, he is an offensive player, you're a defensive player. Now, when you serve, you have to know where to serve, who you're going to serve to, and what your partner is going to do. Is he going to be in the right spot to make the shot? Now, if you make a mistake, well, he can always back you up. Now, at times, when you make a mistake, that's the last mistake you ever make. Now, the other thing is, if you play with another opponent, and the basic rule is, in four-wall, there's the left-hand side, there's the right-hand side. Now, there's 2 right-hand players. The right-hand player never sticks his left hand in when the right-hand player on the right side has his right hand in, which happened a couple of times. Now, You don't make any comments to your opponent. You just go off the back wall the next time, and you hit him in the back. This way here, look around and come and say, why'd you do that? I was like, I'm not going to tell you, I'll tell you afterwards.
That's not true.
Well, in basics, you don't try and hinder your partner, because you can lose his arm, he can throw his arm out, and forget about it.
Just give him a reminder, and he remembers the lesson.
So you just remind him that this is the way it's going to be.
Nice shot. Why don't we stop for a moment? We'll go down to the Hall of Fame. We're on the second floor of the New York Athletic Club, and you're looking at the Wall of Fame, as I call it. It's all Olympians going all the way back before the turn of the century. All the greatest names in sport, in Olympic sport especially. 3 of those men founded the New York Athletic Club. And now, from that date, 1868, when this club was founded, right through to 1992, we're panning over some of the greatest names in Olympic history. Names like Al Order, Lindy Remigino, the great Ray Lump, who's the athletic director here. He's on the 1948 Olympic team and was also the captain of the New York Knickerbockers for many years. What we're going to do now is we're going to go into the actual Hall of Fame. We're going to see the prestigious name on the wall, just as you're entering Dante's Inferno. It says New York AC Hall of Fame. On the left wall, straight ahead, over here on the left wall, are the 3 founders of the New York Athletic Club. So now what we're going to do is we're going to enter this great Hall of Fame of legendary champions. You'll see the original wing foot on display. Let's walk in together. Before you, you see a member of this great Hall of Fame. Let's see, they have the whole thing set up here. Now, I don't know if the light is good enough, but what I want you to do, I want you to get Oscar's name on the wall. Some of the lights are over there. You have enough light now? Good friend Matthew Paris, as always, takes us to the inner sanctum of great sports history. You're now on the second floor of the New York Athletic Club, and the internal part of its athletic history as shown on these walls. You'll see medals from before the turn of the century by the great champions of that time. Names like Curtis, Burmeister, and the like, who were great in the Olympic Games of 1896. In a little while, we'll show you the original wing foot that was first used and conceived as a symbol for this great athletic club known around the world. I'm Ruby Obert, and these are my 2 brothers, Oscar and Carl. And what they're doing is pointing to Oscar's name, which has been inscribed on this wall with many of the greatest champions, Olympic, national, and otherwise, of all time. Carl is touching that wall, and I will touch it in a little while, because it's our belief that ultimately all 3 names will appear on that wall. It will be the first time that 3 brothers, you've heard of the DiMaggio brothers, and you've heard of the Marx brothers and the Ritz brothers. It is the first time that 3 brothers were able to capture not only world championships, but 92 national handball championships in 1-wall, 3-wall, and 4-wall, singles and doubles. Matthew is going to come forward in a little while, and you'll see the plaque which Oscar was presented at the time of his induction in 1984.
The best players in the world. See where he's from?
There you see him,
Want to see his picture?
the legendary Oscar Obert, in the United States Handball Association Hall of Fame, and now here also in the prestigious New York Athletic Club Hall of Fame. He'll point to the plaque that was presented to him, and it shows an action picture of Oscar. It shows the wing foot emblem on his chest, and it shows the greatness of a great champion. And we're very pleased to be here to share this moment with you. He's a legend, a living legend, and we are privileged to see him here tonight. Isn't that great?
It's a great picture.
What do you have to say, Os? How do you feel about all this?
It's honor and glory to the name of Obert.
Now, stepping into the picture, I'll get Paul in there if you want. Stay where you are. Paul will go in. And then we'll ask him a couple of questions.
I actually put this on the tripod now.
Okay. Next to Oscar is the equally great Carl Obert. Oscar exemplified two-fisted power. Carl exemplified two-way hop serves. After the ball would touch the floor, it would shoot out to the left or shoot out to the right, 2.5 to 3 feet. Sometimes the opponent would miss completely, and he would use his skill to outguess his opponent. The next time the ball would hit the opponent in the stomach. Carl, I want you just to ask Oscar some of the questions that were probably on your mind for a long time. Talk about some of the games you played, talk about some of the things you learned when you were just a kid, and talk about what you observed as so far as early skills in your older brother by 2 years in the Bronx.
Well, beginning, Oscar was always a baseball player, a pitcher, and I think that developed his strong arm. But one thing that he always had was a winning attitude. He didn't care what the score was. He knew he was going to win. And I think that's why he always won the big ones. And another thing that he learned to listen. Many times we'd say, Oscar, lift it 2 inches, go to the right a little, and he'd just put it into effect and just work the opponent to death. But he was always sure he was going to win. And I think that's what you need, a winning attitude, and also first place or no place. Second in the country is terrible. To people, it's wonderful. To the Oberts, first place or no place. We played hard. We tried to think as much as we could to see what the opponent was doing and then win. And that's why I think we were successful. Just having that attitude.
Tell us a little bit about how you found the game of handball. How did it occur to you to play handball?
Well, I used to be a basketball player. And one day, Oscar and Rube, I was home on leave from the Army. Oscar and Rube invited me to watch them play in an exhibition. And they introduced me to a few people. And one person in particular looked at me like I was a nobody. And I was like Bob Cousy. I was fast. I could do anything in any sport. So I asked Rube, I said, who is that? He said, he's third in the country in one-wall singles. He said, well, if I can't beat him, I'm going to give up. So I went out 5 hours a day for 2 months, and he learned his lesson. But that's what we always feel we can win. When Oscar, in 1958, Oscar went to Chicago for the first four-wall tournament. He lost 21-1, 21-2. On the plane home, we talked to him. I said, you're going to let that person do that to you? And a few years later, he won 5 out of 6 national titles in the same year. Other people would fall away and quit after being humiliated. He just came back to win. And that's why he is a champion.
What was your greatest singles game, Carl?
Well, the greatest singles game, I think, was a little later on in life. I was sitting in college, and I had to play a fellow named Winfield Balance, who was beating everybody. And most people take a weakness and go after the weakness, and that's how they win. And I was saying to myself, everybody's doing that, is losing. I said, perhaps there's a better way. Why not convert an asset into a weakness? If he was fast, how can we use it against him? If he didn't like to shoot, could we force him to shoot by giving him setups? And that's exactly what I did. I set up a game where I put the ball 6 inches out of his reach. He broke as quick as he could, his normal reflex. And then I hooked the ball back, hitting him in the body each time. The second time out, after winning the first game, I came out and I threw reverse hooks, meaning the ball going away. And everybody was amazed. I won the game hitting every ball into his body. After the game was over, I explained what I was thinking about. On the timeout in between games, he went in the locker room and he analyzed how I was beating him. And I could picture him keeping his feet holding the ground so he didn't make the break. And that's what won the game for me.
Now, Carl, Oscar, Vic Hershkowitz, and you are 3 players in the annals of handball history to have won the national 1-wall, 3-wall, 4-wall singles title. Oscar did it in the same year. How do you feel about being in the same company as these luminaries, Vic Hershkowitz with 26 national championships and Oscar Obert, your brother, with 42 national championships?
Well, we always tried to learn off someone. I used to play Vic up in Brooklyn Central YMCA, and he really knew the game. But I don't think he tried to learn off someone else. We always tried to encompass every play that we ever saw, to learn a trick from him and encompass it into the 3 of our games. And at any moment, you never knew when you had to use it. I used to hook the ball 2-way hooks, and people would say, well, you have to serve overhand, so I wouldn't hook it the regular way. So I practiced hooking it overhand, and it turned out I won 2 national 3-wall titles because the ball wouldn't take with an underhand hook, and when I went to the overhand hook, it hooked right around the wall. And I won 2 nationals, and they forced me to practice that. And that's what I'm talking about. It's good when something bothers you to go after it. Oscar was talking about hitting the ball behind the back. In one of their games, they lost the national title because the man jammed it, hit it right at him. And then we all started practicing turning to the side and hitting the ball behind the back. We played hundreds and hundreds of games just for that one shot. And we could play hitting the ball behind the back with ease, just like a normal shot. That's what a champion does. He sees something and he tries to figure out a way to make it better.
Carl,
And that's why we lasted that long.
Carl, after all these years, what was the one question you always wanted to ask Oscar about handball?
Stump me.
Oscar, what was the one question you always wanted to ask him?
How did he learn how to break the hooks?
That's right. Could you show us how your hand moves over the ball for the natural hook first and then for the reverse hook?
Okay.
Staying
Most people,
within the camera range?
First we have to get an understanding. There's a relationship between speed and hook. The more speed, the less hook. Most players, when they go out, they're trying so hard to put the English on that they increase the speed of the swing and didn't let the ball take play to become a hook. So I always teach people at the beginning that the slower you hit it, the more hook